I'm glad to be here. I definitely would like to see those judges that aren't happy with their job to step aside, and nobody makes them be a judge, but for whatever reason, some of them aren't really predisposed to have a happy disposition, and unfortunately, then we take the brunt of it with our clients. So as Mark or Don can attest to that. What I want to talk about today, I want to go back a little bit, maybe back to the 80s, so a lot of you probably, some of you younger ones won't remember this, but back in the 80s there was a case called McMartin Preschool, child molestation case. Some of you might remember that. Those of you who do remember that, what do you remember about it?
Oh, the grandma and the son.
Anything?
Orange County.
It's Orange County, grandma and a son ran the place. What?
It was not Orange County, was it?
Okay. Abusing children. Anything else?
But wasn't there something about it, like they were not falsely accused, but it turned out to be recovered memories?
Yeah, you have pretty good memory. That was the longest criminal trial in U.S. history. It took 7 years and $15 million of your government money to prosecute that with 0 convictions. Most people, like Kathy, think, oh, weren't they convicted of child abuse? Well, that's what they were charged with. There's no convictions. So I want to talk a little bit about what to do in a general sense if you're falsely accused of something. I'll tell you, those people were devastated. Their lives were ruined, even though they were acquitted. Like people in public, you ask them like now, they'll think, oh yeah, they were convicted of child abuse or child molestation. We're not. As Sean mentioned, they had pretty much a witch hunt. They got one accusation, and then what the police did on that case, they sent letters to all the parents of that preschool, it's like 200 of them, and said, talk to your child and see if anything happens. So it was like, all these things start pouring in, that kind of leading their kids to say things. But do any of you have anybody in your family that teaches school, that's a school teacher? Okay, so a few of you. Every year I give this same little speech. I don't give this speech, but I go over, my wife's taught school for 30 years in the Fullerton Unified School District. She teaches kindergarten. So I always remind her there's 3 things, and those of you that have family members or people that teach school, I want you to share this with them because it'll really help them to avoid having this happen to them, what happened to the in that case in McMartin Preschool. First thing is, I tell my wife, never be alone with a child in closed doors. Okay, it doesn't matter if kindergarten or what age. Most of those cases end up being kind of a one-on-one, whatever the teacher in that case, it could be a scout leader, it could be a coach, but you don't want to be one-on-one with a child. In fact, if there are any scout leaders in here, they know that Boy Scouts of America implemented a policy where it's 2 deep leadership. There's always 2 leaders on any scout outing. They never go alone anymore. And that's protect the youth as well as the leaders. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is document everything. If a child makes a threat to you, not like my kindergartners are making threats to my wife, but if they say something, it needs to be documented and in the record, because if they're, got a habit of telling lies or something, that can go a long ways to helping the person that's accused to be acquitted. What happens in a child abuse case, a lot of times those charges are taken very seriously, which they should be, but a lot of times the children are never vetted very well. They just take them at their word, and teachers are required by state law now to report any time they hear anything. And a lot of times they aren't really vetted. They just say, okay, they said it must have happened, and then boom, they go off on their investigation. And so make sure you document any threats or things of discipline nature. And then the third, final thing is don't don't ever touch the child. Now, that's a hard one for my wife because she always likes to give a little pat or encouragement to him or something. And it's, but I tell her, I says, you know, even an innocent thing can be taken out of context. I'm going to share a couple things here, if I can, some examples. And these were actual examples of touching that occurred where the person was accused of child molestation. Squeezing a student's shoulders was interpreted as touching a 9-year-old student's breasts. Patting 3 female 8-year-olds on the bottom and telling them they did a good job. Again, that got interpreted the wrong way. Accidentally touching a 9-year-old student's groin for 1 second when the teacher was pointing to another student, you know, just kind of hit him inadvertently. And there was another one where hugging several second graders was interpreted as hugging them for sexual gratification. So that's probably the hardest for a teacher, elementary school, when those little kids, you're almost like a second mother to them, and it's very hard, and it's hard for my wife to keep that in mind, but those charges are just devastating because not only the loss of freedom, that Raymond Buckey was the main person charged in that McMartin. He was in custody for 5 years, even though he was never convicted. So you lose your freedom, loss of job, your teaching credential goes down the drain. So do those 3 things. If you share that with your family members that teach school, they'll be fine. Should be fine, if any. They should be accused. Of course, the other negative thing that comes along with that, if there is a conviction, you have to register for life as a sex offender, and that's a big stigma to overcome. So, I want to. Where's our Sergeant of Arms on my timing? Are you doing it?
She left. You're free reign, dude.
No, I don't want to be a free reign. I'll time my. If somebody gives me a clue, I'll set my timer. But.
I have a question for you, Ken.
Yeah.
In scouting, we have a youth protection certification for all the adults.
Right.
Does that go anywhere beyond scouting? Is that available or required anywhere besides in scouts?
I don't know if it's required in any other organization besides Scouts, but it's.
AYSO's big about that.
Are they in soccer? Youth soccer?
So
Okay.
does the Catholic Church
Lot
before
of
they
churches.
hire anybody? No matter what capacity, you have to go through a whole course that you take before you're certified.
Well, yeah, you really need to, for the protection of the youth as well as their leaders. So who's my timer out here? Eric? The video?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, am I 5 minutes in?
We're at
or
9:17.
you're doing fine.
Okay. Okay, you've heard me, Dennis? Yeah, go ahead.
So what are your thoughts on where that direction is going? Because obviously what ultimately happened here is the press assassinated some people based on a few rumors, and nothing was actually inappropriate. And so it was the misappropriation of comment and press that basically killed these people when they didn't really do anything wrong.
Yeah, the question was, where's it going? It goes in waves. You know, it died down after a while, that whole thing died down, but it comes back. I mean, when that happened, and then everything was popping out all over. Teachers were being accused all over the place. Same thing happened just 2 or 3 years ago. Jerry Sandusky, Penn State, assistant coach, the same thing happened. It just, a wave happens. It kind of goes in waves. And so the bottom line is just got to protect yourself. If you work with youth, you got to do those 3 things to cover yourself. Thank you. I got a clock here I can see. Thank you. You've heard me pound before about exercising your 4th Amendment right not to be searched without a warrant, and never volunteer for that. Same thing goes with your 5th Amendment right to remain silent. Now, most people see that on TV and think, okay, get arrested, they read me my rights, and I don't need to talk. Well, you can actually exercise that right on your own before you're arrested, okay? People don't know that because they never show that in the movies or TV. But if you are being investigated, no arrest has been made, they aren't going to read you your Miranda rights. The only time they'd read you your Miranda rights is after after they've arrested you. If they want to question you more, then they got to give you a waiver. But pre-arrest, they can talk to you, you know, those sobriety checkpoints. Oh, how much have you had to drink tonight when they pull you over? How you doing? You know, that's pre-arrest, so they can ask you anything you want. Well, you can invoke your right then. Okay, there's a case. Let's see. If I can find this here. Oh yeah, Salinas versus Texas, and this case basically said that people have the right to invoke that right before they're arrested on their own. They can just do it without the officer giving them the warning. The problem with it is it's sometimes it's too vague when people invoke it. They do it partially. You know, they'll answer some questions, but then they'll talk some more, or they might bungle when they invoke it, how to say it, or sometimes they just keep talking. You know, they say, oh, I want to invoke my right to remain silent, and then they keep talking. They have a conversation with the officer, and pretty soon he's just incriminated themselves or said exactly what they're trying to avoid saying. So what I want to do is I'm going to send around some cards, and on the back of these cards you can write 2 little sentences. And if you ever get stopped, questioned, a sobriety checkpoint, or anywhere else where you're being under investigation, you take one of these cards and then write this, because this will say it effectively without using the words incrimination, because even saying I don't want to incriminate myself, those words can be used later on to say, oh, he doesn't want to incriminate himself, he must be fine. So this will do away without even saying the word, okay? So
Wait for the cards to come around.
yeah, we'll let them come around. I should have sent them around right to begin with. So, and anyway, it's
I'll write it down for everybody.
Pass those cards.
We'll write it in.
all right. Yeah, it's just 2 sentences. So if you can't remember, you can come up to see me after, and I'll tell you. Okay, so here it is. I respectfully refuse to answer based on my Fifth Amendment privilege. Okay. Please direct any further questions to my lawyer. That's the second sentence. Okay. So, I respectfully refuse to answer based on my Fifth Amendment privilege. It's first sentence. Second sentence. Please direct any further questions to my lawyer. Now, when you are detained, you know, on a traffic stop, you are required to give them your license and tell them your name and, you know, identifying information. But anything beyond that, like where you've been, what you've been drinking, you don't have to tell them anything. You just say that and stay with it. And you notice I never use the words, I don't want to incriminate myself, you know. That's all you need to tell them. I think my time's just about out. Any questions?
Bigger card, I can write this one.
Yeah, Sheila is gonna, yeah, no, those, sorry.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Jean.
Regarding this case now that we're all hearing about the heroin paraphernalia that was found in a teacher's bathroom or wherever, I mean, is that going to be a case now against the teachers union? Because they're refusing to allow the teachers to even give urine samples or blood samples or whatever they're asking. But what do you think about that case? I mean, what are the parents' rights here about not wanting their children? I mean, it's in the school and it was in a teacher's life. So I was just curious about what you think about that.
Yeah, I unfortunately have not heard of that case. I may be the only one here that's heard it, but.
Oh, it was on the news last night.
Okay, well,
I think it's
I didn't watch any news last night.
I'm sorry, I think it may have been in the LA schools. Is it in the LA school district somewhere? I don't think it's Orange County. Well, I just thought that was kind of curious about the fact that the parents are standing up at these meetings saying, you know, I don't want my child walking in the halls or being taught by a person that may be on heroin. Because it was found in the teachers,
Yeah, well,
I don't know what you found.
I don't know. It'll be litigated. It's whatever occurred there. I'm not really familiar with the facts of that.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
I think my time's run out. Is your question brief?
It is pretty brief. There's been a city that has started mandating all the police officers wear it's like a GoPro, it's a camera. The union's against it, but one city is instituted. Do you see that happening in the future, where all their actions are recorded?
Yeah.
Let's list them, please.
A lot of them already do that, and it's, you know, I don't know the police unions, why they would be against it. It actually would help them to verify their story. It would certainly help the clients as well. A lot of them already are activated. When they turn their lights on, it activates their recording device in their cars, so.
Yeah, but they're farther away. You know, when it's on their person, it's a different.
Right, but same thing. Anyway, thank you for your time.